18, the Creator established the full economy of the priesthood. In Numbers 19, he gave the products of the red ephah, the cock that stands in his authority alone. And then Numbers 20 opens with a single sentence. The children of Israel, the whole congregation came into the wilderness of Zin in the first month, and the people stayed in Kadesh. And Miriam died there and was buried there. No eulogy, no description of her burial, no mourning period recorded, just Miriam died, and then the water ran out. Numbers 20 is the most personal chapter in Bamidbar. Three of the greatest figures in the wilderness, Miriam, Aaron, Moshe, all reached their limits in a single chapter. And Moshe, the greatest prophet who ever lived, commits the one act that cost him the land he spent 40 years walking toward. Numbers 20. Stay with me. Welcome to AsahxMusic Torah Studio, where we worship with sax and walk in Torah. Numbers 20 sits at a precise age in the book of Bamidbar. The generation that left Egypt, the first generation, is ending. The chapter opens with the death of Miriam and closes with the death of Aaron. And between these two deaths, Moshe sins at the rock of Meribah, and the Creator announces that he will not enter the promised land. The chapter has 5 movements. Miriam's death and the water crisis in verses 1 through 5, the Creator's instruction and Moshe's sin in verses 6 through 13, the rejection of Edom in verses 14 through to 21, the transfer of Aaron's priesthood and Aaron's death in verses 22 through to 29. Before we go into it, like and subscribe, because Numbers 20 has something to say to every person who has ever stood at the edge of something great and stumbled in the last mile. The children of Israel, the whole congregation, Numbers 20 verse 1, came into the wilderness of Zin in the first month. And the people stayed in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. One sentence, no elaboration. Miriam, the woman who led Israel in the song at the sea, the prophetess who watched over infant Moshe in the basket, who led the women in dance after the crossing, is buried in a single clause. Tradition notes that the account of the red ephah in Numbers 19 immediately precedes this and draws the connection. Just as the purification offering atones, the death of the righteous atones, Miriam is gone. And immediately, verse 2, there was no water for the congregation, and they assembled against Moshe and Aaron. There's a tradition that says the miraculous well of water that traveled with Israel in the wilderness, the well of Miriam, was sustained by her merit. When she dies, the water stops. The congregation does not observe this connection. They simply notice the lack and they gather against Moshe and Aaron. Verses 3 to 5 with the old complaint. If only we had died when our brethren died before the Creator. Why have you brought the congregation of the Creator into this wilderness that we and our livestock should die here? So we're looking at when what leaves when the righteous leave. The Torah places Miriam's death and the water crisis in the same breath. No mourning period is recorded for Miriam in the text, unlike the 30 days that will be recorded for Aaron and for Moshe. The congregation immediately pivots to crisis and complaint. The wilderness generation that is ending did not always honor what sustained them while it was present. Only the absence of the water reveals what the presence of Miriam carried. In every community of covenant people, there are individuals whose faithfulness creates an invisible infrastructure of provision and stability, the kind that is only fully recognized after they are gone. Not the loudest voice, not always the most prominent position. Miriam did not carry the stone tablets, she carried the song. She watched over the one who would carry the tablets. Her merit, according to, was carrying the water. When she left, the water revealed what her presence had concealed. The wilderness was still a wilderness. Ask who in your community, your family, your congregation carries something whose value you have not yet fully named. The Torah does not record Israel mourning Miriam before the complaint. They moved to crisis before they moved to grief. Numbers 20 is an invitation to recognize the righteous while they are present, to name what their faithfulness carries for those around them before their absence reveals it. Miriam died and the water stopped. The Torah puts those two things in the same breath. Her presence had been carrying something for the whole congregation, and they didn't know fully until it was gone. Numbers 20 asks, who in your life is carrying water you haven't named yet? Let's go to verses 6 through to 13. Take the staff, you and your brother Aaron, gather the congregation together. Speak to the rock before their eyes, and it will yield its water. Thus you shall bring water for them out of the rock, and give drink to the congregation and their animals. Now, the moment the entire Torah has been building toward in the worst possible way, we're going to read verse 6 through to 13. Moshe and Aaron fall on their faces before the Creator at the entrance of the tabernacle. The Creator appears in glory and gives a precise instruction. Verse 7 through 8 says, take the staff, you and your brother, gather the congregation together, speak to the rock before their eyes, and it will yield its water. Speak to the rock, the instruction is clear. Moshe takes the staff, he gathers the congregation, and then verse 10, water came, the miracle happened, and then verse 12, the Creator says to Moshe and Aaron, because you did not believe me to hallow me in the eyes of the children of Israel, therefore you shall not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them. The consequence is absolute. One act. 40 years of faithful leadership, and Moshe will see the land from a mountain but will not enter it. And this is the sin at Meribah and the standard of the set apart. Commenters have wrestled with Moshe's sin for 3,000 years. Was it striking instead of speaking? Was it the words, must we bring water, taking credit that belongs to the Creator? Was it striking the rock twice, revealing a failure of trust? The Torah does not isolate one single element. The Creator's verdict is comprehensive. You did not believe me, to hallow me, sanctify, to make holy. To demonstrate before the congregation that the water comes from the Creator alone, in the exact way the Creator specified. Moshe modified the instruction, even partially, even in a moment of grief and exhaustion. And the standard for the one who stands at the center of a sacred service is not the same as the standard for the congregation watching. Example, the congregation complained. They always complained. The wilderness generation complained at the sea, at the water at Mara, at the manna, at the quail, at the report of the spies at Korah. The Creator's response to the congregation's complaint at Meribah is not the issue. The issue is what Moshe did while carrying the authority the Creator had given him. The higher the assignment, the more precise the instruction, the execution must be. A soldier who modifies an order and wins the battle is still insubordinate. Moshe was not just a soldier, he was the one through whom the Torah had been given. The standard was the instruction, exactly as given. Numbers 20 establishes a principle that runs through the whole Torah. Those who carry the most authority before the Creator are held to the most precise standard of execution. The congregation was weeping and dying of thirst. Moshe had just buried his sister. He was exhausted, grieving, and surrounded by accusation. None of that disqualified the instruction. The Creator's word does not yield to the leader's emotional state. If you carry sacred authority as a teacher, a parent, a community leader, Numbers 20 is asking, are you executing the instruction as given, or are you modifying it based on how you feel in the moment? The water came out anyway. The miracle still happened. But the Creator said, you did not hallow me before the congregation. Moshe modified the instruction in one exhausted, grieving moment, and the consequence was absolute. Numbers 20 says, the higher the authority, the more precise the standard. The Creator's word does not yield to the leader's emotional state. And now we're going to move on to verses 14 through to 21. The key verse, verse 14. Now Moshe was sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom. Thus says your brother Israel. Now a moment of diplomatic history. Moshe sends messengers to the king of Edom, the nation descended from Esau, brother of Jacob. The message is careful, historical, and humble. Your brother Israel, you know all the adversity that has befallen us. We were in Egypt. The Egyptians mistreated us. We cried out to the Creator, and He heard us. He brought us out of Egypt. Now we are in Kadesh, a city on the edge of your border. Please let us pass through your country. We will not pass through the fields or your vineyards, nor will we drink water from wells. We will go along the king's highway. We will not turn aside to the right hand or to the left until we have passed through your territory. This is the message of a brother nation to a brother nation. Israel calls Edom brother. The shared lineage of Jacob and Esau is invoked as the basis of appeal. And Edom says, verse 18, you shall not pass through, lest I come out against you with the sword. Moshe sends again in verse 19, we will go by the highway, and if I or my livestock drink any of your water, I'll pay for it. Only let me pass 1 foot, nothing more. Edom says, you shall not pass through, and comes out with many men and a strong hand. Israel turns away from them. So we see kinship does not guarantee passage. The rejection at Edom is one of the most sobering diplomatic encounters in the entire Torah. Israel comes with history, humility, a reasonable request, and an offer to pay for every resource used. They invoked brotherhood. They invoked shared ancestry. They promised to stay on the road. Edom responds with a sword. Israel, the nation that just watched their greatest leader receive a permanent consequence, does not fight. They turn away. There's a kind of pain unique to rejection by family, by those who share your story, your ancestry, your origin point. Edom knows who Israel is. They know the adversity. They know the shared father, and they say no anyway. The Torah records this without editorial comment. It simply says Israel turned away from them. There's a time when the door is closed by a family member, and the correct response is not to force it. Israel had a mission. The road was not through Edom. The Creator would provide another way. Not every door that should logically open will open. Not every relationship that carries history, shared blood, or covenant language will yield passage when you need it most. Numbers 20 gives you the example of Israel appealing graciously, offering fairly, invoking kinship, and being met with a sword, and then simply moving. The mission does not end because one route is blocked. Ask, where am I using energy trying to force a door that Edom has closed? The Creator does not need that road. Israel called Edom brother, offered to pay, promised to stay on the road. Edom came out with a sword, and Israel simply turned away. Numbers 20 says, not every door that should open will open, not even the family door. The mission does not end because Edom says no. The Creator does not need that road. Let's look at the final verses 22 to 29. Now when all the congregation saw that Aaron was dead, all the house of Israel mourned for Aaron 30 days. Now the final movement of Numbers 20, the death of Aaron. The Creator speaks to Moshe at Mount Hor. Aaron shall be gathered to his people, for he shall not enter the land which I have given to the children of Israel, because you rebelled against my word at the waters of Meribah. Take Aaron and Eleazar his son, and bring them up to Mount Hor, and strip Aaron of his garments, and put them on Eleazar his son. Aaron shall be gathered to his people, and die there. Moshe does exactly as commanded. He takes Aaron and Eleazar up the mountain before the eyes of all the congregation. He takes the high priest's garments, the robe, the ephod, the breastplate, the turban off Aaron, and he puts them on Eleazar. Aaron dies on top of the mountain. Moshe and Eleazar come down. Verse 29 now. Now when all the congregation saw that Aaron was dead, all the house of Israel mourned for Aaron 30 days. 30 days of mourning. The full nation mourning period. National mourning period. Aaron, who stood beside Moshe from the beginning, who built the tabernacle, who consecrated it, who officiated the first offerings, who survived Korah, whose staff bloomed, is gone. And Eleazar comes down the mountain wearing his father's garments. The transfer before the end. Aaron's death is one of the most carefully choreographed scenes in all of Torah. The Creator does not simply announce that Aaron will die. He specifies the transfer must happen first. Strip the garments, place them on Eliezer. Aaron watches his own succession. He sees his son receive what he carried. He does not die with the garments still on him. The work is handed off before the leader departs. There's something profoundly intentional about the order of events at Mount Hor. The congregation watches from below. Moshe, Aaron, and Eliezer go up together. Moshe performs the transfer. Aaron witnesses it. And then Aaron dies. Not in battle, not suddenly, not in judgment's sudden flash. He dies on the mountain after the transfer, having seen the continuation. The priesthood does not pause. It continues in Eliezer. What Aaron carried does not die on Mount Hor. It descends the mountain on his son. The Creator's instruction to Moshe was transfer before death, not death and then transfer. The work of the set-apart one includes preparing the one who comes next. Aaron's greatest act of leadership may have been his willingness to surrender the garments while he could still witness the succession. Ask, what are you carrying that needs to be transferred while you are still present enough to witness the continuation? Numbers 20 says the garments belong to the assignment, not the person. They go down the mountain whether you go with them or not. Better to place them yourself. The Creator said, strip the garments off Aaron and put them on Eleazar before Aaron dies. Transfer before departure. Aaron watched his own succession on Mount Hor. The garments came down the mountain on his son. And Numbers 20 says, the work of the set-apart one includes preparing the one who comes next. Place the garments yourself while you still can. Numbers 20 is the chapter where the wilderness generation begins to pass from the stage. Miriam, Aaron, and Moshe, still living, but the verdict already given. The land will be entered by the next generation under new leadership, carrying the same Torah. 4 things this chapter gives you. What the righteous carry without naming, Miriam's death and the water crisis in a single breath. Honor the ones who carry provision for your community while they are still present. Absence reveals what presence quietly sustained. The standard of the set apart. Moshe modified the instruction in one moment of grief and exhaustion. The water still came. The consequence was still given. The higher the authority, the more precise the requirement. The Creator's word does not yield to the leader's emotional state. When Edom says no, not every door that should open will open, even the family door. Israel appealed with history, humility, and fairness and was met with a sword. The mission does not end because one route is blocked. The Creator does not need that road. Transfer before departure. Aaron's gifts were placed on Eleazar before Aaron died. The work of the call is to prepare the one who comes next. Place the garments yourself while you still can. Question Numbers 20 leaves you with, what are you carrying that has not been named, and what are you carrying that has not been transferred? Thank you for walking through Numbers 20 with me. Like, share, and subscribe, and do not miss Numbers 21, which speaks about the bronze serpent, the first military victories. The new generation begins to advance. Now, a live sax meditation.